All right. So let's start off with the session 2 of Project Management Professional Training. Myself, Niladri. And before we dive into session 2, let's give a little bit of highlight what we did in session 1. In session 1, we spoke about why we need to do a PMP, the exam structure, the application process, and so on and so forth. Now, in session 2, I'm going to dive straight into the project management fundamentals. Now, the approach that I'm going to take is not take you through the syllabus and go like, okay, action item number 1 or section 1, 2, 3, 4. That will confuse you. Okay, instead of that, let's go through the fundamentals in the next couple of sessions. And once we are clear with the fundamentals, we will take a pause. We will go through the application process. And once the applications are done, then we will take it a structured kind of approach. And after that, we will go through the syllabus and you will see that most of the things are done. Okay, we'll just say, okay, this is kind of done, conflict management done. But if I go with the syllabus, it's like the conflict management is coming in the top, and there is no point in talking about the conflict management if you don't even know what exactly is a project, right? So fundamentals are what exactly is a project, then project versus operations, project roles, project management methods, process, especially the waterfall. Now, in this series, whenever I talk about project management process, I do not mention it agile, then by default it is waterfall, because PMP is all about the conventional waterfall process. Okay, and then we are going to have a sneak peek into the PM knowledge areas and finally the next steps. So what is a project? Now, we all need to know this very, very well. We all need to have a very crystal clear clarity of what do you mean by a project? Because nowadays, everybody says that I'm into this project. I just finished like 20 projects or 10 projects, and I'm doing 5 at one time. So what exactly is a project? Sometimes you will see that a person may not be doing a project and he or she may not be knowing that they are not doing a project. They are maybe part of an operational activity, but still they will say it's a project because they are not sure what exactly is a project. So if you ask me personally, I am not a fan of definitions. So definition wise, the ones which I remember from my school days, like Newton's first law of motion. Okay, and then if you go into the the PM's book, you will find the definition of critical path. And if you go through them, once I take you through the definition of critical path, you will see that you are not getting the point. The definition is kind of pretty much written in a tricky way, or it is dry and you will not get the actual point when you read the definition until and unless somebody explains to you what exactly is a critical path, right? But I will take a pause there. This definition of a project is really, really nice. I mean, if somebody has got any doubt what exactly is a project, they must go through this definition. They should remember it, that they should memorize it rather. And any questions on what is a project will be answered by this definition. In fact, if you ask me, if you know what is a project, a couple of the questions in the exam can be done in a very fast way. Okay, you don't have to spend too much of time thinking on it because you know what is a project and what is not a project. Okay, so let's go through the definition. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Simple, right? Now, there are two keywords in this definition. One is temporary and one is unique. And I have just strike them, right? So temporary means anything which has got a end date. And unique means you know that, right? So unique has to be something which is not repetitive in nature. So something which is giving out a unique service, a result, or a product. So let's talk about use case. So use case one, somebody gets a job in a company, okay, and the job is something like that. You have to sit in a chair, and every half an hour you have to stand up and you have to tighten a screw somewhere in a machine, right? And you sit back again. You do that for 6 hours straight. Every half an hour you stand up, you tighten a screw, and you sit back, okay, and you are doing it for infinite time. There is no end to that. 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, you keep on doing that, right? You are paid very nicely for that, by the way. So that's a job, right? Now, will that be counted as a project? By definition, no. Why? Because it's not having an end date, right? It's got a start date, of course, but it's not having any end date. So anything which is not having an end date is not falling in the bracket of a project, right? Now let's change the case. The use case will be same job, same profile. The person has to tighten the screw after half an hour. But again, in this case, uh, that will last for 6 months. So let's say after 6 months or after 180 days, the person will be told you are no longer needed to tighten the screw. Now you have got a different kind of work to be done with the machine, but not tightening the screw. That's done, right? Again, will that be considered as a project? Because we now have got an end date, right? But still it will not be considered as a project because though it's got an end date, it's not unique. It's a repetitive behavior which you are doing every day. Day in, day out you go, which is not producing a unique product, service, or result. So that is the main crux of a project. There are many other things if you have to know with the project, but this is the fundamental one, that anything with an end date and which produces a unique product or a service or a result will fall under the purview of project. Now, project versus operations. That's the place where you will find the thin line is there, and people will say that, yeah, this is kind of the project I'm doing. But if you look with the like with the lens of a PM, you will find that may not be the project, but in reality, it's a operational work. So look at the difference between project and operations. So project will be having a definite start and end date, but operation will be an ongoing process. I don't know if any of you have worked in a call center in the past. Okay, if you work in a call center, that can definitely be coming, or that will definitely come under the purview. I mean, if you're a person who is taking calls from customers and solving their issue, technical or accounts or whatever, that will be an ongoing process. That's operation, pure operation. Okay, there is no end date to that, right? Now, project one more catches that there is no revenue which you earn while being on the project, but operation will always generate revenue. I don't know if you have seen a typical call center. I'm just giving the same example where people will be picking up calls, but the customer has to pay for that call. There are many such like that, where the customer has to pay for a premium call support, and then only the person on the other hand will pick up the call and support. Okay, now an example will be that, let's say it's a car manufacturing company, right? Now, till the time the car prototype is being designed, like defined and designed and built and tested and everything, till the time it is completely done, the prototype is ready. Okay, that point of time, till that point of time, the project is over. Okay, once the prototype is getting into the assembly line, okay, for mass manufacturing, from that point of time, it is getting into operations, because from that point of time, okay, the focus is that how fast the cars can be going for a pre-sales, or how fast the cars can go from the factory to the nearest dealers, and how fast the cars can be sold out. And then only the operational manager will calculate that, okay, per day, per week, per month, how much cars we are selling, right? So, but till the time the car prototype is being built, that is a cost to the company. There is no benefit. I mean, there is no revenue till that point of time. Okay. And so while in the project, you will not be generating a revenue. Okay. Be it for any kind of product, be it a mobile manufacturing company or a aircraft manufacturing company, all of them, till the time the prototype is built or ready for mass manufacturing, till that point of time, it's a cost to the company. But once the product is rolling out, from the factory to the local masses, it's basically a revenue generating product. In a typical project, you will find the different kind of roles, like mainly, of course, the de facto one is the project manager, of course. Then we have got a software developer. Now you might be questioning, how come a software developer has a role in a project? Of course, yes. If you're building a product, and let's say you are building a mobile phone with the latest kind of or the next gen kind of technology, you definitely need very good developers who will be helping you out to getting those applications running. And whatever the coding is happening till the point the product is getting released, that definitely is falling in the project. So it's a role in the project. And that's why in the PMP application process, your role does not matter. Like, you don't really have to think too much about, I'm not a project manager, can I apply for PMP? No, you don't have to think about that, because your role can be anything, a quality, or a tester, or a QA QC, or a PM. Anybody can be there. It just You just have to ensure that the data which you're filling in, you basically were plugged into that project and you did some work on that project, right? Trainer also. A trainer is also a project manager or doing a project, because a training is having a end date to it, right? And while the time the training is going on, you're not generating any revenue, right? Maybe you've got some aim that you have to put this training in some portal to earn some money, but that is all after the training is over. Okay. But at times, yes, a training can be live and people will be earning money while the training is going on. That again will be coming between operation and project. I will say still it's a project, because till the time the training is not over, the revenue will not be generated, right? Roles, well, when you are coming into operations, then definitely a team lead or ops manager or a functional manager. Now, functional manager is the person basically to whom the team will report to. And this is something where I will take a pause, because this is where I will discuss this in the session 3, where we are going to talk about the org structures. What are the different kind of org structures, and in which org basically the people will report to the functional manager, but will virtually report to the project manager while they are in the project. So we'll talk about all these use cases, right? But as of now, know that a functional manager will typically be a part of operations. They are not a part of project. Okay. All right. That's about the kind of the high level view between the difference of project versus operations. Now coming down to project roles. Now there are different roles while you are in a project. Okay, so let's go through them one by one. First of all, starting from the bottom, you've got the project team. Let me try to pick up a annotation here. Give me 1 second. Okay. So the first one is the project team, right? The project team is something where the entire team which is plugged into the project and they're working together for the similar goal in the project, right? It can be anybody. Like I said, it can be the developer, the trainer, the QA guy, the QC guy, all these people, they're part of the project team, right? Or the procurement team and so on. Now, project manager. Now, project manager is the person who is the lead of the project, and basically he or she is managing this particular project, which is temporary endeavor to produce a unique result or service or product, right? Now, if that is the project or that is what the project manager does, then what exactly is a program manager doing? So program, the definition is it's a group of similar nature projects deriving a benefit which could not have been achieved uh, if the uh, 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 if the projects were handled individually. Okay, so means that if I have got a group of projects, okay, let's say I'm a part of a mobile manufacturing company and I'm the program manager of the next gen mobile set to be launched in the market, and my team is building that particular mobile handset. Now, when I build a mobile handset, there will be multiple projects which will accomplish that, right? One will be just looking into maybe the firmware. Okay, one will be looking into the connectivity piece. Okay, one will be looking into the elegance, the design. One will be into the latest stuff, like let's say wireless charge, like charging and so on, right? So these different projects, okay, if I group them together into one single program, or if I ask one guy to handle these projects, that person will be the program manager. And the benefit is that since these projects are interlinked, okay, because I may be having the best designed mobile set in the world. Okay, my design team is doing great work, but I may not be working on the next gen stuff like the like charging stuff or the 5G 6G stuff, or I may not be working on, let's say, the next gen Bluetooth stuff, or the applications to work across or seamlessly through my smart TV and so on. Okay, so all this different projects, their success will ensure that my program is a success, right? So that's why it's always good to have similar natured projects under one umbrella called a program. So managing them will be easy, number one. Number two, the overall benefit can be arrived at a nice way, rather than if you want to manage them individually, then there is no connection between them and there is no governance between the projects. Okay, so if there is one program, the governance is fine, all the milestones are tracked, and everybody has got a kind of a similar, end goal date, which is falling in the critical path of the launch of the product. Sorry for using the word like critical path, because I know we have not yet came across the critical path definition and the explanation. That's a very, very interesting, topic. But I will just step back and say that, let's say your mobile phone is supposed to be launched on 1st of Jan 2024, right? And you're leading that program. Now, point is, uh, in order to attain that date, there are a lot of things which you have to work backwards and see that those things are done. Your compliance, emission standards, right? The radioactive emissions. Your phone is working properly or not, which basically means your prototype and how the tests are on the prototype, the gaming, the camera, all these things, they are separate, divisions, right? And that's when all these are having one guy or one person managing all of them. There can be like multiple PMs for each of them, for each of the verticals, like design 1 PM, and then we have got the camera 1 PM and all that. But there has to have be one program manager who will be handling this, because in that way the governance is easy, and the benefit derived from the overall program can be calculated easily and can be derived nicely, because all of them are kind of interlinked. And at the end of the day, when the mobile handset is launched and some kind of generation of revenue is happening, and then definitely that can be linked back to the program and said that for this particular program we earned X amount of dollars, where we kind of invested Y amount of dollars, right? So that's the benefit of the program. It's a group of similar projects done together, because the benefit derived will be higher in comparison to if you were leading the projects in a singular fashion, right? Now that's about a program. If that is a program, then what exactly is a portfolio? Portfolio is something which is a combination of projects, programs, and operational work. So again, in the portfolio, your projects and programs may not be similar kind of nature. Okay. And you will also be having a separate kind of a bucket called operational work. So let's talk about how generally a org functions, or generally how a organization structure looks like. So right from the top, so let's talk about the top of the org layer. In every org, there will be a mission, a vision, and in order to fulfill those mission and the vision, there will be a strategy. We call that the org strategy, right? So maybe my mission of the org is that we want to be the #1 aircraft manufacturer by the next decade. Okay. Uh, my vision will be that, yes, we want to be the most friendly, or we want to produce the most friendly aircrafts, or the most economically viable, aircrafts for the airliners and the customers. Okay. And the org strategy will be that how do we have all the programs lined up in such a way, or basically how the kind of work we should do to ensure that our company reaches that mission and vision. Okay, so portfolio is the highest step, where all the work will be like right there, like scattered. And the person who is going to manage that will be picking up the projects and the programs and the operational work, basically. But they will all build up to the strategy of the company. Maybe the projects and the programs, the person is holding, they are not related, but still, they will be deriving the benefit from them as per the strategy of the company. So let's go into deeper. So let's say that I am the portfolio manager of the next gen aircraft to be built, and my delivery date for the aircraft is, let's say, 2025, 1st of Jan, right? Now there will be numerous projects and programs which is related to this particular build, and there also will be certain projects which are not related to this build, but still they will be given to me because that helps me. Let's say I would like to have the renewal license done for the emission of my current line of air of the planes. Okay, which means if I handle that project, the licensing piece from the federal bodies, and if I know what is happening there, then I can make or I can take an informed decision about my next line of the planes, right? So basically I not only manage the next gen production of the aircraft at a very high level. It's like 50,000 feet high, right? That kind of the vision I'm having. As a portfolio manager, I'm not only managing that vertical, because all the program managers, they are basically reporting to me, or they are basically aligned to my portfolio, but I'm also into other mix of projects and operational work, which is boiling up, or which is circling back to the strategy of the company. It can be compliance, it can be fueling. So let's say one of the research teams in the company is working on how to make the most fuel efficient aircraft. Okay, how to make the engines in such a way that the aircraft will fly at a higher altitude, or at a greater speed with the less fuel. Right. Now, those kind of things, I need to have a visibility there, or I need to be connected to those programs as well, uh, because end of the day, these are going to have an impact on my future build of the aircraft. So all are kind of interlinked. They may not be interlinked at a ground level, but at a very high level, everything is interlinked because they are boiling up to the strategy of the company. Now, remember, in any company, from the lowest level till the highest level, everybody's work, I mean, may not be completely like directly linked up, right? I mean, they will be working on different projects and programs and activities and operations and whatnot. But end of the day, all the work which is done by everybody in the company should actually boil up to the strategy of the company. No work in a company is done by any individual at any level which is not aligned with the overall strategy of the company. Okay, and if at all that happens, then the company is going to change their strategy. And if the company changes their strategy, immediately you will see that a certain kind of a org restructuring will be happening, a certain kind of new orgs will form, certain older orgs will go away. The reason is that we only want that work to be done in the company which is aligned with the strategy of the company. That's the important piece. Okay, so portfolio managers are at a very high level. Okay, but they are definitely, their hand and feet are into all the projects and programs and the operational work. And there is not one, right? There will be many portfolio managers, right? But their work is definitely completely plugged with the operational or with the strategy piece of the company, the mission and vision, basically. Okay, the program managers are the next level below the portfolio managers. Below them are the project managers. Okay, and then we have got all the teams. Now your question might be that in your company you do not have these kind of the designation. Maybe you do not find any portfolio manager designation in your company, or maybe you do not find project managers in your company, and that is fine. These are the standard, I will say, the roles which are being defined by PMI. Okay, so that you can relate these roles with certain designations in your company. See, company will be having their own process, their own policy, their way to work and their way to designate people, right? To recognize people and to know who is doing what. So company may not always be having a portfolio manager. They may just call him a manager. Might be, right? That manager might be doing a lot of projects and programs which are not related, and also will be doing some operational work. So by definition of PMI, if you're doing that, then you're falling in the bracket of portfolio management. And then you're into a program, then you're into project, and or else you're a part of a project team. Now let's talk about one more role here, that's called the sponsor. So sponsors, generally sponsors are either external or internal. Now if you are a part of a product based company, most of the sponsors are from internal only, which means that let's say that you are going to be, or you are the program manager of of the next gen car to be launched, right? Which is happening in the next 1 or 2 years. Now somebody has to fund you for that, right? You have to develop a budget sheet and tell that this is what the budget I need, the rough budget and all that, and somebody has to fund you. That funding will be normally be done by a sponsor in the company. Generally the sponsor is a vice president, a VP kind of a person. In PMI we call them, like, let's say the portfolio manager can be the sponsor, or you can have a separate sponsor kind of a person in the org as well. The sponsor's job is to look into how much of budget they have got this year to spend for different kind of programs, and then equally they are going to distribute the budget, or they are going to give out the budget, like depending on the priority of the programs, right? Sometimes the sponsor can be the program manager as well. Can the project manager be a sponsor? Well, it can be, if it's a low valued kind of a project, because project managers will not be having too much say on the bigger budgets. And that is because the program managers will be having more visibility into budgets, and they will be knowing that, how much of money is there for a particular year of particular 6 months, and how much they can spend and how much they can keep on the reserve and so on and so forth. Okay, so sponsor is one of the role in a project, who is going to uh, fund the project. Okay, and there are many things a sponsor does. A sponsor can also terminate the entire program. Okay, if the sponsor says or feels that this program is not going to sustain, but those things we'll talk about later, what these guys do in detail. So as of now, I'm not going to double click on these guys right now. I'm just going through the top level, the high level, the crux, the kind of the high level knowledge to know that what these guys in general do. But there are a lot more things these guys can do. They have got a lot more power. And when we talk about things like the project charter and the roles and the responsibilities of a sponsor, a portfolio manager, program manager, you will get to know a lot more about them. Okay, now all these people, all these roles, including the sponsor, they all are falling into the bracket of stakeholder. Now we keep on saying that, you know, uh, I spoke with all these stakeholders today. So normally stakeholders are everybody who is plugged into the project. So what is the definition of a stakeholder? Anybody who has got a stake in the project. Okay. Anybody who has got a stake in the project is called a stakeholder, right? And then you have got the ways to group and divide these stakeholders. Like somebody will be having high influence, high impact, low influence, low impact. All those things, we will come to that in detail when we talk about the stakeholder management. But right now just know that anybody who is having a stake in the project is a stakeholder. It can be the end user as well. Okay, so let's say that you are doing some beta testing for your next generation product launch, and the end users, they're writing some review for you, they've done some testing for your product. Those people are also stakeholders for your project. So you just cannot say that the project team, the nice cozy team of the project, they are the project people and nobody outside that is a stakeholder. You're wrong. Anybody who has got a stake in the project is a stakeholder. And then there are key stakeholders, and then there are other stakeholders, right? We'll talk about them in detail. Okay, that's about the project roles. Let me just take off the animations here. Okay, let's move ahead with the project management methods. Now, when we talk about the project management methods, there are only two methods in which a project can be done. One is waterfall, one is agile. Some people call it hybrid also is there, which is a mix of waterfall and agile. Yes, that also can be done. But in general, in higher level, there are only two ways in which a project can be done. One is waterfall and one is agile. Now, waterfall is, now prior to that, what they are. So prior to that, I will also say that how to pick it up. Now, that is the job of a project manager. A project manager will decide that which is the best project management method for this particular project to ensure that the success is there. So waterfalls are the project where we have got a fixed scope, or rather we can say a fixed scope, cost and time. Okay, and the fixed baselines, they are formed in the planning stage itself. So right in the stage of planning, we know that what exactly is to be done, how much money I have got, and at what time I am supposed to deliver. Okay, now if you talk about the certifications like PMP or Prince, these are the certification which covers the waterfall method in detail. Okay, these are the certifications for waterfall method. Okay, now next one is agile. Agile is about the project where we do not have a fixed scope, cost, and time. So it's ambiguous in nature. From the beginning, like in the very beginning, we don't know what exactly or how exactly the product will look like. Now, Agile is normally done for products. So let's talk about, let's say, smartphone apps, right? So smartphone apps. If I pick up any of the products, so let's say Uber, right? If I pick up Uber, now, Uber, when it got launched in the beginning, like you might have seen Uber, right? From the very beginning, when the app launched, it was a very basic kind of app, right? You just tap the app, it opens, and it has got a geo tracking. I mean, the GPS turns on, and then you can locate and book a cab, right? But if you now look into the product, it's got so many features. You can share the cab, you can pay through various ways. You also can get some kind of, what do you say, some kind of, credits for future bookings and all that stuff, right? Now, uh, even that's got now aligned with the food and all that stuff. So this was not there in the initial product. So what happens is Agile works especially for the products where they want to launch it with the minimum feature list. So let's say they will define a big feature list for the product based on the user stories, like based on the requirements they capture from the market or looking at their competitors. And now, once they build the feature list, like feature 1 to 100, then they will prioritize the feature list. And then they will say that, uh, how fast can we launch the product? Because the more delay we do in launching the product, we think that we have to, you know, uh, include all the 100 features in the product and then we are going to launch it. It will lead to a lot of time loss, and by the time they launch it, like they take like 2 years or 3 years to launch it, by the time the entire technology will change and the competitors will come up with 100 more features. So they don't want to stay like, like kind of, what to say, in a sleepy mode. They want to launch the product to generate the revenue faster. So they call it minimum viable product, MVP, which means that get the minimum features in which we can launch the product as fast as possible. Maybe 4 weeks of time, we launch the basic version. Okay. And then we watch the market. We get the user feedback. We see how the product is doing. We watch our competitors. And based on all of that, we keep on giving the new features on every new version we are generating. And that's why when you restart your smartphone and all, once in a while you will see that certain apps, 4 or 5 apps, they need updates, right? And all these updates are basically either a bug fixing or a new feature to be added, and these all products are agile products. Okay. The key word for the agile is called progressive elaboration, or we call it rolling wave planning. Means that we are not planning everything in one shot. We are planning as we are going through the journey. Okay. And that will never stop. If the product is a hit, it's being liked by the users, it's generating the revenues, then at no point the guys will say, or the team will say, that now we have done all the features of the product and now we are launched it, now we are plugging out. They will not plug out, they will always be there. If the product is a kind of messy or is not liked by the end users, then they are going to shut down that project. And that's why you see so many startups, they are shutting down their ventures, their business, because their product would not have done well, or they would not have gone the return of investment. Okay. Now, when we talk about agile, then ACP from PMI, then CSM, these are the certification which covers the agile in detail. Okay. Now, agile is just a framework, and we have got at least a dozen ways to do agile. And let's say, like, lean, or scrum, or kanban, xp, dsdm, these are the few well-known agile ways in which, or well-known ways to perform agile. And all of them cannot be done like together. Like if you talk about the manufacturing companies, then a company like, let's say, Toyota, okay, they will be doing lean. Okay. If you talk about most of the IT companies, they prefer to use scrum and kanban. Some people call it scrum ban as well, scrum plus kanban, they call it scrum ban. Similarly, if you are into a heavy coding kind of a company, then normally they prefer XP. So all this kind of stuff is there, and there are like different ways to pick up which method of agile will suit my project. Again, if you are a part of IT industry, then definitely Scrum is one of the most popular way, and the best way to learn Scrum is that to certify in Scrum is go through the certification called CSM, which we call Scrum Master certification. Okay, or certified Scrum Master. Scrum is very popular, like you would have heard terms like sprints and product backlog and all that. That is basically the gist of Scrum. Now, we are not going to talk about Agile here. I will be keeping a separate session on Agile. We are going to talk about the Agile in detail, especially about Scrum, but not right now. Throughout the lessons, if I'm not going to mention Agile, then know that I'm talking about the waterfall. So I will be talking about the waterfall by default. If not, I'm explicitly talking about Agile. Okay. All right. Processes in project management. Now, again, this is just a high level view. We are not going to double click on them right now, but just to show you what are the 5 processes or the 5 process groups when we talk about project management. And the classic 5 process groups are initiation. That's when you initiate a project. Okay. Basically, things like your business requirement, your project charter, your assignment of a project manager, that all happens in the initiation stage. After initiation is planning. When you plan the project, the most, I will say, the lengthy piece of a project, because the uh, buzzword is that if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail, right? So you have to take a lot of time to plan out the project, which basically means scope, cost, time, quality, all these things are planned extremely nicely in the planning stage. And then we have got the execution stage, when we execute the project as per the plan, right? After execution, we have got the process called monitoring and control, where we check whether the project is being executed as per the standards or as per the quality standards. And if any deviation is happening, then that's to be corrected. Okay, things like change management happens here. Now, the key part is that the monitoring and control is not a one-way approach. Like, it's not like after executing only you will start monitoring and control. It's a it's a two-way kind of a handshake. I will show it to you right now. But prior to that, after the monitoring and the control, we get into closing. So we close the project, where we get into delivery of the project, and we also get into the lessons learned and so on, right? So these are the 5 process groups, but explicitly when I talk about monitoring and control, it's a two-way kind of a process, which means you really don't wait after execution to start with your monitoring and control. You do them together. So while executing the project, side by side, you also do the quality checks and change in if any deviation or any scope creep or any requirement to re-baseline the project, the change management, all happens side by side while executing. Okay. And if I talk about in further, then I will say the entire this box which you are seeing, that that dotted box in which we have got the initiation, planning, executing, and all the steps are being covered. That big box can be thought about the monitoring and control. So monitoring and control will encompass the entire 5 process groups. Throughout the 5 process groups, you are going to have the monitoring and control, though it is very visible when you are doing the execution steps, but still throughout the project cycle, like right from the start till the end, you are actually going to do the monitoring and control, without which you will not be able to steer the project in the correct direction at the finishing line. Okay. And if there is any kind of changes which you found, like let's say while executing, you found a gap, then monitoring control found that, okay, this is a defect. Okay, then they can actually put those changes in the planning as well, which means to say that let's say you're building a car, right? And while executing, and while you are checking or doing the QC process, you found that the safety, the safety harness of the seat belt is not correct as per the design, right? That you found while you were executing the project, right? Then what you do, you go back to the design team in planning and you ask them to change it to make it as per the safety standard. Then they change it, and again from the planning it flows down to execution. So monitoring is a very important part of project management, and most of your questions in the exam will be based on the monitoring and control and on planning. These two are the main things. If you know planning, I will say you have known most of the piece of project management. Okay, now let's talk about the knowledge areas. So if I talk about the project management knowledge areas, we have got 10 of them. And again, I'm not trying to confuse you much because right now we spoke about the process groups, and then I'm talking about the knowledge areas, right? So process groups is the framework. Think of it that any project in the world, be it manufacturing of car or aircraft or healthcare or anywhere, pharmaceutical, anywhere you're doing a project which is like temporary in nature and has is going to produce a unique result, any kind of this project will be going through this 5 process groups. You have to initiate, you have to plan, you have to execute, you have to monitor and control, and finally you have to close, right? Now, knowledge area is something which, again, I'm going to talk about these in detail in the future, right? I will double click on each one of them and talk about in detail. But knowledge area is something which is spanning or which is cutting across the process group. So let's say one of the knowledge area, let's say, is scope. Okay, scope is here. So you will see the second one from the left hand side is first one is integration. Then we have got scope, time, cost, quality, all that. Let's say scope I pick up. Now, when I pick up scope, the scope is going through which process group? Like in which process group actually we are going to use the scope management knowledge? Is it in the initiation? Is it in the planning? Is it in the execution or monitoring control or closing? We'll check that. Okay. So the knowledge areas will cut across the process groups. The things will be more clear when I present it in a form of a chart, how the knowledge areas are interacting with the project management process groups. Okay. I really don't want to get into all the 49 sub processes and everything that will really confuse you. My aim is that I I explain the entire knowledge in a kind of structured way so that you gain the knowledge very easily and very simply, and you can remember it, but not like in a very bookish way or not in something where you have to memorize things. So do not try to memorize these things at all. It will all come slowly with you. You will know the stuff once we go through the remaining sessions. Like by session 3, 4, 5, we will know the fundamentals very, very well. Okay, before we even dive into the knowledge areas. So knowledge areas, just to give you a glimpse, integration, the first one, it's basically a mixture of all the knowledge areas. So project integration is one of the, I will say, key strength of a PM, where he or she is mixing the knowledge areas of scope, time, cost, quality, HR, communication, risk, procurement, everything into one single bucket, right? um, Scope, time, cost, quality, these are, like the name says, it talks about the scope and then the schedule and then the budget and then the quality. All these things are separate knowledge areas, and you're going to learn, what is scope, how I'm going to calculate the schedule, how am I going to calculate the budget, what is quality, what is QA and what is QC, human resource, where does human resource come into picture, communication management, what do I mean by that, what is communication channel, risk management, what are the different types of risk response strategy, the procurement, how do we do that, what are the ways or what is the fundamental way to procure any kind of hardware or software or any kind of for that matter any kind of material to a project. And finally stakeholder, which means that what are the kinds of stakeholder, and how do we do a proper stakeholder management. Okay, so all these things we will go through in a deeper way, in an example kind of a way, and then you will know the knowledge areas very well and how to relate that with the 5 process groups. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So we have come to almost the end of the session 2. The next steps means I just want to give you a glimpse what you have to do till the time we meet again next week. So by this time, you would have got a copy of your project management book. Maybe it's a PMBOK, maybe it's any other hard copy book which you prefer, but start going through the PM knowledge areas. Just go through them. You don't have to probably learn all the details, but start going to have a glimpse of them, what the book tells you. It's good to have, that reference kind of a knowledge always with you, because there is one way of learning is like somebody is like talking to you or training you. That's one way. But the other way is that self-learning, which always helps. So go through the knowledge areas and try to get the point what these are, what they do. Waterfall versus agile, know the difference. in detail what is the exact difference. It's not only about fixed scope, cost, and time, but it's more about that. What's the benefit? What is the benefit of a waterfall versus agile, or agile versus waterfall? In which cases we generally use the agile, and which cases we use the waterfall, and which cases we use the hybrid. Okay, hybrid means a mixture of waterfall plus agile. If you have not started so far, then please start your PMP exam application process. Exam application process, the best part is that you don't have to fill the entire form and then you have to click on submit. You can keep saving the draft online. And I know where you will get stuck. You will get stuck at the point where it talks about your project management experience. And that's the part where people kind of fail to write in a nice way how their work is related to the PM world, and how to frame your work experience to ensure that it is falling into the bracket of the project management experience. So that is somewhere probably will need some help, and we have got ample time. Give 3-4 weeks time to write that. If you need any help from me offline, let me know, and I will be there to help you in guiding you through the PM exam application process. It takes some time, trust me, and be very careful on that, because like I said, you don't have to pay any money to fill up the exam application form. You fill up the form, you submit. After that, it goes to review, probably a audit most of the time, where you will be asked to submit the artifacts or your manager's signature and all that. And then after all is approved, then only you get a separate link from PMI, a separate mail from PMI that congratulations, it got approved, and you got a link where you can click on the link, pay the money, and book a sit for the exam. Okay, so be careful. We are going to talk about the entire application process in one session. I'm going to keep one session dedicated to the exam application process, probably after 4 or 5 sessions, and by that time we will be knowing the fundamentals very well. Quick wrap up. We have done this. What is a project? A project is a temporary endeavor which results in unique product, service, and result. Trust me, this definition, keep it in the bottom of your mind. This is very handy definition. One of the very easy to remember kind of definition which answers everyone that what exactly is a project. Program is a group of related projects to obtain a similar benefit, which could not have been attained if the projects were managed in an individual way, because end of the day they are interlinked. Portfolio is a group of project, program, and operational work, and they may not be interrelated, right? And finally, we have got 5 process groups, which I told you, and 10 knowledge areas. All right, with that, we came to the end of the session 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I wish you all a great day and a great time. Thank you.